All right, quick announcement. Well, pretty much the same, nothing new. For your lab number 1, it will be due next Monday, and make sure you submit in time, 12 noon, please. Make sure you submit in time. Submission will be closed automatically, it's been set, so please submit in time. And maybe most of you have been done with it, very good. Otherwise, if you haven't, you really need to make sure you spend time understanding what's really covered. And the optional textbook, I mentioned about it last time. And let's now remind ourselves, our first assessment, written test 1, right? Let's bring that into context very quickly. And I'll let you guys know what you can expect before the written test number 1. Here, if you look at the semester calendar here, we are now here today, the 31st, in about 2 weeks' time, exactly 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, Tuesday, you're not going to come here, you're going to go to Williams Small Center, but you can expect to get a preparation guide, like in the previous course, around this Monday, about more than 1 week before. On that Monday, I'm going to give you some PDF guide, and also I'm going to give you some practice questions as well, just to get yourself maybe started, preparing and kind of know what the format is for the written test. I'll be in touch about this. But if you guys can really drop by, I would suggest you do 2 things to save time for later, very quickly. One would be, you want to drop by the Williams Small Center, just behind the Tim Horton, the Williams Small Center. Number 1, you want to make sure you can use your EECS account to log in to the computer, to the lab computer. And number 2 would be, you want to make sure you can use your Passport York account to log in to eClass. And I'm pretty sure whenever you want to log into eClass, sometimes it also prompts you for the mobile, dual mobile verification. Just make sure you can do both of them. Otherwise, you will be wasting time setting up or fixing things during the test, right? That's something I'll put on the preparation guide anyway, but it doesn't hurt to really try doing that and make sure you can do it before the test. We're going to need that for all the tests, okay, for later. Yes? Maybe not, because me and the TA will actually be there earlier just to set up the room. So I would suggest try to do that maybe earlier. You can do that maybe about 1 hour before. Well, my point is, if you go, let's say you try to go there and then somehow you find some problem with your login. Usually it takes some time, for that to be fixed. So try that earlier. That's really my suggestion. Yeah. Alrighty. And if no question about an administrative issue, let's now move on to continue. LTL, okay? The plan for today, I want to do some deeper syntax analysis together with you guys and doing lots of exercises, do some comparison at the end just to make some remark, observation, and then we can move on to defining the semantics for LTL, which is very critical whenever you want to do some model checking. You want to know exactly what you're model checking and also how you can express properties yourself. That'll be the ultimate goal. I'll do 1 step at a time. Well, let's see how much we can do today. Definitely finish the syntax part. And a very quick recap from last time. So you can assume that this is gonna be the grammar we're gonna use for many working examples. And we're gonna use that a lot today, right? We'll do exercises together. And very quick recap. This grammar here, somehow the for all and exist, they are implicit because later on, most likely Thursday, when I start talking about defining these temporal operators, we're going to use some universal or existential quantification over some time series, which is infinite. That's something we'll do on Thursday. So they're implicit. So that's why we don't normally put any formula explicitly using for all or exist. That's number 1. And we talk about the operator precedence. This is extremely important. So if you refer back to your notes, or you can look at the iPad notes, let me just point to you very quickly. I think that was on, sorry, not this here. I think should be over here, precedence. Okay, quick reminder, we need that today actually, so let's remind ourselves. The temporal operator, that's unary, the X, F, and G. For now, don't worry about what they really mean just yet. Today, we'll still play with the syntax, okay? they will bind the tightest. And we'll see exactly what I mean by bind the tightest. And the next one will be the binary LTL operators. And also we got the logical operators. And the negation binds the tightest. And then followed by conjunction, and then disjunction, and then implication. I think these are definitely the common ones we're going to use for the exercises. All right, that's a quick reminder for you. Okay, let me go back to the slides. And we talk about the symbols over here. I think at this point, at least for today, we're still going to stick to the letters over here, so you get used to them. But I think later on, when we talk about common patterns for writing temporal formula, we may sometimes find it useful to use the symbols. We will play with them maybe a little bit later. But for today, let's focus more on the letters over here. All right, so this is not a compiler course, of course, but whenever you talk about syntax, it's really good to know a little bit about parsing. I will summarize everything you should know in one single slide with example. That's it. No need to take any further reference. That's all you need to know. All right? And we're going to use that grammar you were given last time to make reference. Let's go bullet point by bullet point. They're pretty straightforward. You just need to know some terminology. A context-free grammar. Okay? We call this grammar over here a context-free grammar. Okay? The whole thing is called a context-free grammar. Context-free grammar. Very intuitively, it is called context-free in the sense that you don't really have to do any analysis to see whether variables are declared somewhere else. Just look at the formula alone. Okay? But you don't need to be bothered too much about context-free. Okay? You just need to know it's a grammar. It's a rule for you to derive many strings. And we're going to do exercises to make sure it's 100% clear to you. Okay, so let's say it's called G over here, and essentially it describes what defines recursively. That's very important to know. All possible strings that can be derived from that. And notice that the range of possible strings that can be derived from a single grammar, given that it's recursive, is in general infinite. So there is an infinite number of formulas in LTL you can derive from this particular grammar over here. We're going to see some example over here. So later on, if you want to write some formula in LTL, you're not too sure exactly how to write it. You can follow the principle we're going to show to you today about either draw a parse tree or to really do some derivation. See whichever one that's more intuitive to you. All right. But it's really important to know, given some finite rule, only about certain rules over here, you got an infinite number of possible strings you can derive for the formula. And it contains two concepts over here. Okay? Since we say it's going to be defined recursively, so there are two cases, base cases and recursive cases. Right? Let's now let me point to you. So over here, oh, let me just make sure. Okay, there we go. These are the base cases. Whenever you want to write anything about true, false, or some proposition, that will be the base cases. Base cases. And in the compiler term, they also call terminals. You can think about terminal in the sense that it's going to terminate the recursion, and that's it, and stop there. If you're not reaching the terminal, that means it's not really completed yet for the process. So the formula there is still half complete. Okay? Especially if you look at that over here, think about this phi over here. This phi here, for example, you got any occurrences of phi. Right? All these are called non-terminals. What does that mean? If you see any non-terminal in your formula, that means the formula is yet to be completed. So it's partially completed. Right? It's not exactly just valid just yet. Okay, so the goal in general is to get rid of all the non-terminals. The goal in derivation is to get rid of, I'll put it in quote. It's a little bit informal, but get rid of somehow. Get rid of all non-terminals. Right? And there is one very special non-terminal, which is over here, which means whenever you want to do any derivation or parse tree, you got to start with this one. So start with phi. It's called a start variable. Okay. Let me see if I missed anything. Okay. Yep. That's it. All right. So that's about different terms over here. You guys should know, but pretty simple. All right, the next point. And given some input string, we want to somehow show that that particular input string is in the language of the grammar. For example, let's say this. If I give you, let's say F, something simple. P implies Q. Think about this is like a string of LTL formula. And our goal is to really show that this particular string is in the language of LTL. So what we say is, whether or not it is a member of the language of the grammar G. So think about the G here is the grammar. Grammar of LTL. And I'm pretty sure you guys remember what this is, right? Even though we didn't review it in the beginning. It's a set membership. Think about all the set of strings you can derive from this particular grammar. Over here is in this particular language. Okay, I'll write it down. Think about L of G over here is conceptually the set of strings derivable from G. And it is called a language of. So L here is really a language. Think of a language is simply a set of strings, to put it simple. Okay? And this is a member. And we're going to show how you can justify it. I'll give you one example where it is not a member. Let's say here, if I give you F over here, and then I say P, and then not Q. This is not a member. Because F over here is supposed to be just a unary operator, as you can see here. There should be nothing that comes before that, according to it, right? So now I'm using F as if it was a binary operator, so that's not valid. So this is not part of the language, okay? Right, so this one here is not. Yeah, you can do that for sure. If you replace this one here by U, then it will be valid again. I'm just saying if that's F, you cannot do it. PU, F, oh, let me do it again. Yeah, let me just say this one first, and then I can talk about the string you're talking about. Not a member of L of G. So Patrick, again, what's the string you're thinking about?
Until future, not Q.
Future, yeah.
Because you said like something occurs before F, so therefore it's not valid since F is unary. But in this case,
yeah, that's good. But this one here, think about, it's a little bit different. Because let's say in this case over here, right? Think about how it's going to bind. First of all, this one is going to bind over here. And then not Q is also going to be bound together over here. So in this case, you do have the U over here that has the right-hand side being this, and the P being the left-hand side. But here you don't have that, right? So here you only start with P, which is already a base case, followed by certain F over here, but F itself should be a unary one. Let me put it more precisely. I like your example, actually. I like the challenge here. Think about what's really wrong with this. Somehow you got some base case over here. You got another F over here, but there's nothing to connect them in between. That's the more precise way to put it. Yes, very good. That's awesome. Okay, so No connector in between. On the other hand, this one here indeed is in the language. Yeah, after we do the exercise today, I think you guys will feel much more intuitive about why this is a member, this is a member, but this is not a member. Okay, but just more extra example for you. And here I put some important assumption over here, but that's something I will explain a little bit later when we do the exercises. So here I try to maybe not to really put the grammar to be different levels. Usually when people do context-free grammar, they try to embed the operator precedence into the grammar itself. But for this course, I don't want to get down to like a grammar course. So that would be too much for our purpose. So I would say, for now, the way I do the exercise, I'm going to take the precedence into consideration before I try to analyze the grammar. I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay, let's do that. But just remember there's an important assumption about the way we do syntactical analysis. We'll get there. Okay. Okay, the next point. Okay, good. So now given some string, for example, this one over here, how do we show it is actually in the language? You got three possible ways. Okay, let me enumerate them, and then we'll do one by one. We're going to do exercises and see how they may be related to each other. In terms of the expressive power, they are equivalents. But there's certain information that can be shown in one but not the other. That's something we should definitely conclude as well. But we'll get there. All right, so we can either draw a parse tree, like a tree structure, like a general tree that you learned in 2011, the data structure course. Okay? And the tree has certain characteristic. Number one, do you guys remember the notion about internal nodes and external nodes, right? Okay, we're going to see that, just in case you forgot. So for all the internal nodes, it will happen to be just phi, the star symbol. We'll see that, okay, like a non-terminals. For the external nodes, that will be exactly the individual character, right? For example, when I say individual character, this is one character here, this is one character here, and this is one character. This is one character. And for our purpose, let's not consider parentheses. So when we try to do the derivation, we already consider the order of evaluation. That's already enforced by the parentheses. Okay, we'll see that. And in addition to parse tree, why don't we do a parse tree right away? So one at a time. All right, so you will see that on your slides, let me jump ahead just to tell you. These are the exercises we're going to do in class. I'll try to do at least one or two of them so you get a feel. Are you guys interested in doing that right, in class and then have somebody come here to give you an answer? We can do that too. Maybe, okay, maybe we'll do that if that wouldn't take too much time. And then I do have some additional exercises for you for take home. Okay, I'll give you guys a solution later, but that's something you can do on your own as well. Okay, let's now do one or two together. Okay, let's start with the parse tree. Okay, parse tree, give me a moment. Okay, that's what we have presented so far. Let's do a parse tree exercise. Okay, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, what about I do the first one together, and then you guys take some time to do the second one, and then I call somebody here to actually present your answer. Use my iPad, okay? Hopefully that'll be correct. All right, let's see. Today we actually got a chance for 3 people. We got left derivation, we got right derivation, we got parse tree, right? We'll see. If that takes too much time, we can cancel. We'll see. The first one, parse tree. The way you're going to draw a parse tree is going to be called a top-down approach. Okay, the way you draw it, top-down. That means start from the root all the way to the leaves. Top-down. Don't try bottom-up. It might be possible, but it's actually much less intuitive. Okay, top-down. So from root down to the leaves. Okay, so that'll be the principle I would suggest. All right, let's try. And remember the assumption I just mentioned a few minutes ago. Before you can draw a parse tree or try to do any derivation, you may have to analyze the formula or the string first by using the precedence that we talked about. Okay? And only after that, you will be able to draw the valid parse tree. All right, let's take a look. And I would say this. Whenever you got any unary temporal operator, you want to somehow box them because they should be bound together. And also, and then next one will be the binary LTR operator. Oh, and then we got logical operator. Yes, go ahead.
By boxing, can we actually just physically put parentheses in the
That's okay. Yeah, when I say boxing, I mean just take some notes myself because the question itself doesn't really have any parentheses, right? Okay. Yes. Very good. So let's say I will try to box, let's say, this one here. They should be considered together. This one here, it should also be considered together. And this is also need to be considered together. And one side note, you can see here the until operator, the U operator here. You can see its left-hand side is simply a single P, like an atom. So we don't have to box any further. In general, this one here could be maybe another operator. For example, it can be another G, maybe Q, or GR. In which case, you got to box further. Okay? Anyway, are we okay so far, just about how I box? I only box the simple unary and binary operations for temporal logic. Patrick first, yeah.
How do we know, so for the binary operator in this case, how do we know to stop boxing at P and not take the entire expression to the left?
Yes. So in this case, because, okay, very good question. Let's say, why should I box this way? Let's say for this one here. Let's look at right-hand side first. It's easier. You can see until operator here. You can see its right-hand side is only just a single atom. So it should belong to just the until operator. Okay? It's a single one, an atom. On the left-hand side, you ask about why didn't we box? Maybe this way, for example. Yes, the reason is, you can see, this is the until operator. Well, like okay, let me put it this way. This is a temporal operator. This one over here is a logical operator. You may only try to expand further if somehow you actually reach to something that's similar, but not something that's lower. Because you go to the left, you can see this is something that should be bound less tighter than this one here, so that's why it stopped over there. Okay? So this one here bounds less tighter, less tightly. So that's why you wouldn't continue. So that's why you only go, so what would be the left-hand side for the until operator? You only go only go up to here. Okay? Chidalu, you actually raised your hand. Did you have a question? Or what was the answer?
Why don't we talk about like top down? Are we gonna make
oh, before I go with the top down drawing the parse tree, you need to kind of analyze the pattern first, because the operator precedence itself should be something we do first. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The only alternative would be we have to make the grammar itself more complicated by embedding the operator precedence. But I'll suggest it's not worth our time doing it. Okay. Very good. Okay, so now let's try. And after the boxing over here, let's now take a look at the grammar. Sorry, the string. It's going to be something and something implies something. All right? And we know that conjunction should really bind tighter than implication. So we can box a little bit further. So that means this one here should be considered together as the left-hand side for the implication. All right? Let's do that. So if I try that, it's going to be, oh, sorry, that's too much. Okay, like that. And then think about this guy over here is the consequence part for the implication. Right? So this is the kind of analysis we have to do first before we draw the parse tree. Okay. All right. Having this in mind, let's draw the parse tree. So overall, it's really some implication at the top level. It is the red box over here implies the right box. Okay, so let's do that. How can we use the grammar? You always start with the start variable. Always start with this. This should always be the root. Always. Okay. So what I will do is I'm going to start with the root start with the phi. Do we have any pattern in the grammar that give us some implication? Something implies something. We do, over here. All right, and how do we draw that? It's a general tree. 3 children, 1, 2, and 3. Phi implies and phi. All right, let me repeat again. Before you can even start drawing the tree, you have to make sure it's 100% clear to you how you can group different parts together based on the operator precedence. Okay? I'll try to give you guys more example I can think of, maybe tricky ones, so you can think about it before the test or exam. Okay? All right, let me move, give you a little bit more space. Okay, so far so good. And one look ahead. So here you can see we got this and this. They are non-terminals. That means we are not done yet. If you're still seeing any leaves over here being the phi, the non-terminal, that means you're only halfway done, partially done. We gotta expand the subtree over here and also expand the subtree over here. When you are drawing a parse tree, it doesn't really matter if you go with the left or go with the right. However, when we talk about leftmost derivation or rightmost derivation, the order does matter, okay? But just a look ahead. But for parse tree, you do have the freedom to choose either way. Chidalu. Yes, it's because I want to know overall, is there any pattern in the rule that's going to support something over here implies something? Indeed, that's this one here. If you look at this one here, is something implies something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're looking for pattern. And of course, in this case, we don't worry about parentheses. We don't.
So how does the branch go to the implication side? What's kind of confusing?
You mean this one here?
Like there's one branch that goes to the implication.
You mean this one? Oh, yeah.
In the blue tree, right?
Okay, good. So, let's try to interpret this a little bit further. We are saying that the star variable here, I want a formula. Think about phi is like a general formula in LTL. This LTL here happens to be an implication, which has some antecedents and some consequence. So think about this is the most abstract. You're getting more and more clear about what should be underneath for the sub-formula. Mm-hmm. Let's maybe do a little bit more, and then just see if you still got doubts. Yeah. All right. Guys, interrupt me for any question, right? We're trying to kind of learn by doing, so I think it's going to be fine. All right, let's say we choose to do this guy here, for example. We want to figure this out. And let's have some look ahead. It's going to be a tree. Okay? Ultimately, what should this subtree here correspond to in this original string? Yeah, Gerald, I'm pretty sure you meant, and Patrick, I'm pretty sure you guys would meant this part over here eventually. Let's write that anticipation first. Ultimately, it's going to be something like F, P, and G, Q, ultimately. All right? And let's see if that's really the case. If I try to look at the antecedent part for the implication, it would be this red box. Itself is actually an conjunction, agree? Where the left-hand side may be something arbitrarily complicated, and the right-hand side may be arbitrarily complicated as well. All right, so I need a conjunction. Do we have any conjunction? Yes, we do, over here. Okay, let's now do that. Let's expand it. So this one here is going to be phi conjunction phi. All right. Chidalo, are you okay? Okay, good. And we're getting there. And now if you take a look at 5 and phi. Now we can, let's say we try to do this part here before we go on to this one here. Okay, let's finish this branch. Here, for this one here, what should that be? Yeah, FP, right? You can see this conjunction here is corresponding to this conjunction here. So we really expect another subtree over here that should really correspond to FP. Okay, let's do it again. Okay, I can say this is going to be another subtree over here that's going to correspond to FP. Oh, you know what? I might need a little bit more space. Let me put it there. Oh, sorry. Okay, it's going to be FP. All right, and for that one there, do we have any pattern for FP? We do, which will be here, F5, right? Let's write it down. And this one here is going to be F and then phi. Are we done yet for this little branch here? Not yet, because we still have phi. Now, for this phi here, what should that be replaced by? P. P itself, we assume, anytime we got P, Q, and R, they are supposed assumed to be atoms. So which will be the base case. This will be the terminating case, terminal. All right? So here, let me put it down. It's going to be just P. All right. Hopefully it's not too bad, right? Okay. Okay, that's why we're going to do a second example, and then you guys can do two more, maybe back home. Yes, go ahead. Good question. Think about F over here is like an operator. So let's say back in your Java program, if you got %, well, not exactly a good analogy. How about for loop? Whenever you see the keyword for, indeed, it's a terminal. That means you cannot derive any further underneath F. Whenever you see any root, like a phi over here, that means you should really derive more subtree down there. All right? All right, guys, we are done with this particular branch because every leaf over here is a terminal. F, an operator, is a terminal. P, an atom, is also a terminal, right? However, are we done with this particular branch? Not really, because we still have phi. And the phi here should be the right-hand side of the conjunction. All right, let's do that. And we really want some GQ. That's what we want. So that one there is going to be maybe G here and phi here, right? I'm using this rule over here, okay, for your information. And then G here is already a terminal. I don't need to derive anything down below. I don't need to. But what about the phi here? It should be derived to something that will correspond to the operand over here. That should be Q. In that case, we're lucky. Only just put Q here. And we are now done with this entire subtree. Okay, I'm going to make some annotation at the end just to show to you about internal nodes and leaves. That's one of the bullet points in your slide. How about this one over here? Oh, sorry. Maybe you have raised your hand for 10 minutes already, right? I never saw you. Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, would it be correct to say that as you go down the production of the grammar, that it becomes more, like the operators are more tightly bound, so the ones that are higher up?
Yes, indeed. So the question was, or the observation was, if you look at the top over here, you can see the implication over here is higher than, for example, the F over here. So you can also conclude that somehow because F binds tighter than implication in this case, right? Because you can see we box F first, and then implication should really at the top level, right? You can think about this, these two boxes put together using conjunction is the antecedent for implication. That's why the whole thing over here is the antecedent for implication. You'll see the correspondence. Okay, very good.
Be careful though, because it only works within one subtree. Like it doesn't work with different subtrees.
Yeah. So I think, yes, very good. So I think, think about whatever, that's going to look ahead. Whatever that's in the subtree over here should be evaluated together as the antecedents. And whatever that's underneath as a subtree also need to be evaluated.
But I mean, like in terms of the height, the levels, the height thing, it doesn't apply across two different subtrees because if you look at like
Yes, yeah.
it
Yep, indeed.
At the same level as the conjunction, but
It depends on how you interpret that particular formula. But in this case, we definitely need to make sure this one here is evaluated first before consider the next one. Yeah. Okay. Very good. All right, guys, what about this one here? Ultimately, we should really get P until U R, right? And that one there, we know that, do we have any pattern for U? Indeed, we do, which is over here, right? Phi, U, phi. And then, for this phi over here, that should really correspond to the left-hand side for U, which will be P. And this phi over here should be the right-hand side for the U, which will be R. All right? And now, are we done? The way to check it is to look at every leaf. Let me highlight it. F, P, conjunction, G, Q, P, U, R. Oh, sorry, I forgot also implication over here. If you look at all the leaves over here, together that correspond to exactly every individual character. If you do some kind of the tree, you can definitely also pretty print the tree. But that's another story. Thomas.
So this is the method of finding whether or not this statement can be written in language.
Yes, indeed. So basically, you try to, well, I would say when you are already analyzing the operator precedent, you pretty much get a feel about whether or not you should be a member. But to really show or prove that it's indeed a member, you got to draw a parse tree. That's the way to show it. All right, good. And one more thing to say. If you remember, there was one bullet point back in the slide. That sounds very weird. It says that all the internal nodes will be non-terminals. Now you can see that over here. Internals means some nodes that have some children. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. These are all phi, non-terminals. Okay. All right, guys. Any question? Yes. Always phi. Always. For our grammar, that's the case. Yes. Yes. Oh, I see what you mean. So for now, you can assume that. Okay. So this one here, P is not exactly like a keyword to say it has to be exactly P. That means any propositional atom will be okay. So and typically, for propositional atom, we'll say P, or sometimes say Q, sometimes we say R. Or to be more general, which we might see today or maybe later, you might see, for example, some proposition. It could be maybe C larger than 0. Or maybe P, maybe, I don't know, P squared less than 0. So, oh, that's dumb. Let's say larger than 4, whatever. Something that can evaluate to either true or false in general. So guys, I think that's a very good point. This P over here is not a terminal. It's any proposition you can write. Okay, it's really important to emphasize. Not a keyword. It is terminal, yes, indeed. All right, how about you guys do one exercise right away? Oh, question?
Can you give us an example where we get to true and false?
Yes, indeed, absolutely. You mean we can get to some true or false over here, right? Absolutely. I like the question. And I'll also give you the answer as well, okay? Let's see how easy it would be conceptually, okay? What you need to think about is now for all the atoms over here, let's say P, Q, and PR. We're going to replace them by either true or false, okay? So let's do that. Let me say P here, let me say is true. Q here is going to be false. P here, let's say false. Oh, yeah, you're right. Well, it doesn't matter. I just want to do some, yeah. Just want to get as much variety as possible. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And how about true again? So that's our new formula. Okay, the formula reads like this. F true and G false implies false U and then true. That's a new string. Now, how do we modify the parse tree in just a few seconds? What should we change?
The leaves, right?
The leaves, exactly, right? Because the overall pattern, like a precedence, still stay unchanged, right? So what we got to do is, let's do that accordingly. So P here should be just true. And the Q here should be just false. And the P here should just be true. And the R here should just be true. That's it.
So that would be the end of it, though, that there's not any...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course. Yeah, because this will be the end. Yeah, you don't really derive anything further than true. True is already the base case.
Okay.
Good. Patrick.
So if we're given a proposition of one, a formula, a temporal logic formula, and we know the truth value of these expressions, do we stop at the expression?
I see what you mean.
Do we
That's
take
what
it
I was
one
trying
step
to say.
further and
Yeah.
evaluate the truth value?
Okay, sure. I see what you mean. For example, if I give you something like, let's say, let's say 5 larger than 2, right? Do you have to simplify first, maybe to true, first of all? No, you don't need to.
But we say we make the tree, we end up with 5 greater than 2 as a leaf. Do we take it one step further down to true?
To true? No. Remember, we're only parsing. We're not trying to evaluate.
Okay, but it is part of the grammar. So like, is it?
No. Think about what's given by the user. Let me make another point. Good point. And for this one, let's make it a little bit simpler, just as simple as possible. Okay, let's say this. Let's say the grammar goes like this. 5 larger than 2. I'll make it more extreme. Implies 7 divided by 4 larger than 2, whatever. Yeah. Well, no, actually, this will evaluate to true, right? The whole thing. We don't do that, right? So if I say draw a parse tree, you may say this is false, right? You might just say 5, and then you just say here, false implies, maybe this one here, that should be false as well, right? No, that's not right. Because you have done some evaluation over here. No evaluation should be done when you do only parsing. Parsing only want to put out the structure for the string. You don't try to evaluate it, okay? No evaluation should be done.
You have to trust that like the sub-grammar of like the propositions are valid as well, because like those propositions.
We assume, yes. For atom over here, we assume that one there is going to be grammatically correct. Yeah, we don't get any further, right? Very good. Should be done, right? Parsing is only about analyzing the structure, okay? Oh, by the way, guys, what should be the parse tree for this one then? Correct parse tree. Fine? Yeah, Vanessa, what should that be?
5
Phi implies phi, and then?
true.
No. We don't do any evaluation, right? Remember.
Well, no, but it would just be the leaves, no?
Exactly. 5 less than 2 implies 7 divided by 4 larger than 2. Think about these guys over here.
Okay,
It's simply like a P, atom. All right? Yeah. So guys, please try to keep it a little bit low. Yeah, I could hear you very clearly. No problem. All right. All right. I like the question. It's very good. Go ahead.
We haven't talked about like what like is correct. I'm not sure I understand.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, we haven't talked. Oh,
Like what is 5? What is F?
exactly. Very, very good. Remember, we talked about 2 things last time. I like the question as well. It's good to clarify. We talked about the notion about syntax and also semantics. Right? Remember these 2 terms? syntax is only about the structure of symbols without worrying about their meaning. As long as the structure is actually correct, that will satisfy the syntactical analysis. For example, I'm going to give you one analogy. Let's say I play desk. It's a subject, verb, noun. Grammatically correct. Does it really make sense? Maybe not. Maybe yes. I'm not sure. Maybe not.
So we're just worrying about syntax, no semantics.
Exactly. So I think that the complete learning process should be understand the formula itself very well. So later on, when you actually want to write your own formula, you will be very aware of whether you're writing something that makes sense, or at least for the structure, right? Semantics is something we're going to hopefully start doing a little bit today if we got time. Otherwise, we'll definitely do it on Thursday. And what's going to be on Thursday is we're going to assume whatever, okay. Let me say one more thing. Semantics only makes sense if the formula is syntactically correct. If it is not syntactically correct, you don't even bother to figure out its meaning. You shouldn't bother. Okay? Very good. Oh, it's actually like this. You know, in Java, right? In Eclipse, if you actually got the syntax wrong, missing a semicolon, or maybe missing some keyword, or spelled wrong the keyword, then can you execute the code? Not really, right? There's no meaning. Meaning is not clear to the computer, so they cannot execute it. That's another analogy. All right, let's not distract you by this nonsense over here. All right. All right, very good. And, all right. Oh, don't forget, we got this original example here, and then you guys got another two very nice questions. Let's now say you guys do some exercise. How about that? Can you guys take 2 minutes? To save time, how about I cancel the volunteering mechanism today, if you don't mind? Okay, save time. Okay, but you guys will definitely get a chance later. Take 2 minutes. Okay, it shouldn't take longer than that. Of course, I would say I'm not too sure if I really require you guys to really write such, draw such parse tree in the written test. I'll let you guys know. In which case, I'll just give you guys some blank paper. You will just draw that. Don't bother to draw it on E-class. I'm not even sure how you can do that. Right. So guys, remember, if you want to draw the parse tree, I'll get to you. If you want to draw the parse tree, you have to analyze first about the precedence, right? If that was done right, then most likely you can get it right. Yes. Yes, you will do something like that. That's not exactly right. We'll get there. Don't worry. All right, guys. 1 more minute, and then we'll do some comparison. And notice that here we do have the parentheses somehow forcing the order of interpretation or evaluation, right? I shouldn't say evaluation to confuse you, like an interpretation. That means this guy here should be considered as a single unit to the right of F, okay? All right, just 1 more moment, and then I'll write down the answer. I'll give you the analysis quickly, and then do the answer, and then you can compare. And then I got 2 more examples for you to exercise back home. All right, let's now take a look. Wow, 15 minutes already. Time flies. Okay, but we got to make sure we do this properly. That's going to be fine. Okay, so number 1, I want to box this guy here. First of all, because of the parentheses. All right? And inside over here, you can see we got atom here. You can think about atom goes by itself, for sure. If you want to box it, feel free. P and Q, P and R. And you can see we got another unary temporal operator over here. Before and after are simply logical. So we don't really expand any further. We don't. Pretty much related to what Patrick was asking earlier. So this one here, let's now box this way here. GQ should be by itself. And then P UR should be by itself over here. And you can see now we boil down into, let's say for the green parts over here, something like this. P and something implies something. And we know that conjunction should be bound tighter than implication. So let's do one more box. And we are done with this analysis. All right, like that. Okay. Yeah, so I think if this was on the written test or exam, you can feel free not to use a box. If you want to use parentheses, that's okay, as long as you know what you're doing. Right? Let's now draw the tree. Overall, it's going to be the F operator. All right? Yes, question?
Just out of curiosity, the parse tree always needs like a super example to P and Q and R. Is there going to be like
Oh, yeah, it's going to be the same, yes. So I see what you mean. But to be more precise about it, if you somehow get, let's say, okay, I know what you want to ask, I think. If you got something like something arbitrarily complicated and something arbitrarily complicated implies another thing. You know what? I think I want to make it even more symbolic for what it's worth. Something here, and then something over here. The parse tree is definitely always going to be, let's just do this one here quickly. Overall, it's going to be some conjunction implies something. So it's going to be something like this. So this one here is going to be some implication. And then some phi over here. And we can expect this particular subtree after the derivation is going to be exactly the box. Okay? You know what? Let's say this. The subtree over here is going to be exactly the box. And then, oh, actually, let me do one more. I forgot a conjunction. Yes. This one here can also be a conjunction. All right? And the pattern is like this. This part here will always be replaced by whatever the box is over here. This part here will be whatever the circle is. And this part here will be whatever the triangle is. Right? And they can be arbitrarily complicated. I'm pretty sure it makes sense to you, right? Patrick?
Did we ever decide on how associativity works in our grammar? For the implications specifically?
Yeah, you know what? Let me address this question. I'll make sure I give you an answer soon. Yes.
Because with
Yes.
no parentheses, it's
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. So Patrick's question was like this, but I will give you guys the correct answer. I don't want to rush. I mean, it's mine. Yeah, I want to be sure. So question here, I'll give you guys an answer. If I say P implies Q implies R, in that case, how do we draw the parse tree? For now, let's not worry, just for now. Okay? I'll put a question mark. That one is to be answered. Okay? All right, let's now take a look at the answer over here. Overall, it's going to be F something, right? So we're going to have phi here, and then F, and then we got phi. And the whole subtree over here is going to correspond to the green box, right? And then this one here is going to be, what should that be? The child. Thomas.
First, I want to ask, should we include the brackets in the tree?
No, we don't include brackets in the tree.
Then it should be phi implies phi.
Exactly. Very good. Yeah. Guys, again, we don't do any parentheses in the tree. Parentheses is only for grouping about different interpretation. You don't need to include it. The tree structure itself already tells you the parentheses. Let me make that point very quickly. If you look at the tree over here, it tells you that it would be as if this part here is bracketed, because you got to do this one here before you talk about implication and then the right-hand side. It would be as if. All right, let's now do this one here. So F over here will be, implies. Phi implies phi. And this phi over here is going to be the antecedents, which will be conjunction. Phi conjoined with phi. You can see the left-hand side is simply just P. And the right-hand side here, just another temporal operator. So that'll be G, phi, and Q. A minor mistake you might make, which is wrong, but be careful. Of course, mistake is wrong. If you simply say, I don't have this, I just say G and then Q. That is not exactly right, right? You have to say G, phi over here to correspond to this rule. And then you further derive phi into Q. Yes, Chidaru.
Just so like, just better.
Yeah.
So, what we did for like, say, let's say the third level, we did phi implies
Okay,
phi.
give me a moment. Yeah.
So in that level,
You mean this one here?
no, the one above it, yeah.
Yes.
So in the antecedent, what I did was phi and phi implies phi. So just like so I know why that's wrong.
Okay, so think about this. So here you're saying that overall we got some implication. And then we are trying to derive the antecedent part in this subtree. Yes, that's what we're doing. Can I take a look at your tree very quickly? Yeah.
I just messed up. Like I'm just wondering, like it's just so like in my head I really know like why this is wrong.
Do me a favor. Can you send me the tree if you don't mind? And then we can discuss it next time.
Okay.
Yes. It might be nice for everybody to know what mistake. Yeah, if you don't mind sharing. Just share it with me, and then I'll talk about it next time. All right, guys, let's finish this, and we'll take a short break. I know we're getting close to the end, but let's take a break, and then we'll do more. Okay? All right, let's now talk about the consequence. That should be until, right? So it's going to be 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then it's going to be phi, U, phi. This one here will be P, and this one here will be R. Again, if you try to look at all the leaves over here, they correspond to individual characters of the original formula. And all the internal nodes are, all the roots are simply just phi. All right? And exercises for you guys to consider. I got another one here, and I got another one here. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Don't worry, I'm going to make the notes available. But if you guys want, if you look at the slides, okay. Okay, if you look at the slide, don't worry. It's nothing that's not available to you. If you look at the slides, and you will, this slide was newly added. I'll try to update it tomorrow. But if you look at this slide here, that's exactly the 1, 2, 3, 4. We talked about these two already, and these two. They're on your slides. Okay? Don't worry. All right. And guys, let me make a mini conclusion about parse tree, and then let's do a little bit of derivation after the break. Okay? It is very important to actually know this. Okay? Given two formula strings. Let's say formula 1 and formula 2. Okay. Number 1, if F1 not equal to F2, that means they are not the same string. I'll give you a concrete example, don't worry, but let me just finish that. If they're not the same string, but F1 and F2 have the same parse tree. F1 and F2 are considered as equivalent.
But you just said that though. You just said this formulas are not equal.
No. Let me finish that. I know the confusion. Let me finish this, and then I'll give you an example. Don't worry. Okay. Consider as semantically equivalent. Guys, don't worry. I know where your confusion is. I'm going to clarify that right away. But This is right. Okay? Let's now consider two examples here. F1, F2, right? Let me use the one we just talked about, right? Oh, sorry about that. Oh, which one? Oh, here, sorry. Too many pages. All right, this one here. All right, so F1 equal to F2. I'll give you one example. Let's say here, if you consider, let's say FP, let's use the, okay, FP and G, Q implies P, U, R. All right, that's one string. And I can also use brackets.
You just said brackets aren't.
No, I will talk about it. Give me a moment. Okay, parentheses, I'm going to write it down. Parentheses are considered as input. However, when you draw the parse tree, you don't really put them because they already suggest how you're supposed to evaluate things or interpret things. Parentheses they are part of the input string. To force certain order of interpretation. Maybe let me try to avoid evaluation. Since I talk about we don't do evaluation, right? But anyway, some order of interpretation. Okay, point number one. It's part of the input. So that's why when I compare these two strings, they are different because you got parentheses over here. They're different, right? But when you actually try to draw the parse tree, we normally ignore the parentheses. We ignore that. Otherwise, the parse tree itself will be too complicated, way more. Okay?
Is this just for like special cases like this?
What do you mean special cases?
I feel like this is the only case where.
Yeah, of course. You know, this is only one way to introduce brackets, right? I can only bracket another way. That will still give you the same parse tree. So you can feel free to, okay, let me finish this and then maybe I can take further question, okay? And then parentheses are omitted in parse trees. If you try to draw the parse tree for this one, which we did, right? If you try to do this one as well, think about what's going to happen. We have to box these two together because the parenthesis tells us we should do that way. Also, we're going to box it like that. Also, we're going to box it like that. And then we got and we got implication. So the same kind of structure. So even though the strings over here are different because we got some more parentheses and also the way they're bracketed is a little bit different. Well, actually, literally, there's no bracket here. So that's why they are different strings. Different spelling, how about that? Different spellings. But if they have the same parse tree, that means they should be interpreted the same way. So they are semantically equivalent.
First, just to clarify, this isn't one directional, right? It says that if they're not the same, if the formulas aren't the same, but they share the same parse tree, then they're semantically equivalent, but not vice versa. Like two semantically equivalent equations don't need to have the same parse tree.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Second is I'm confused as to why we consider the parentheses as part of the spelling of our strings when it's not in our grammar.
Well, thinking this way. Yep.
It seems not rigorous enough.
I agree. It's not exactly 100% rigorous, but since, for this course, I don't want to get too much down to parsing detail. In that case, we're going to get very complicated parse tree that will actually easily let us lose the focus. Okay? I agree. Patrick, I definitely agree. If we can spend maybe the whole course talking about parsing, maybe we should do that. Yeah, I think I can even let you guys implement some parsing algorithm, but that's not the point. Okay? So I would say just bear with such a restriction over here. Okay? So when we say there are different strings, That simply means they have different spelling. And spelling themselves include parentheses. Okay, good.
A quick follow-up question is like, if we change the order of the conjunction, would you still say that the trees are the same or not? Because like
The tree would not be the same.
because
Yes.
the tree has to exactly match.
Exactly. That's going to be some side condition I can mention as well. So that's why here I say one way, right? If this is the case, that implies they are semantically equivalent, but not vice versa. Because easily say, think about P and Q semantically equivalent to Q and P. What about their parse tree? Not exactly the same, right? But different parse trees. And you can definitely try. So that's why this is only one directional. Okay? Let me mention point number 2 as well. That one is for you guys' information. If F1, F2 have the exact same spellings, that means they got the same parse. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. But that's only for you guys' information in general. Let me write it down, okay? Don't worry. I know what I'm talking about. Don't worry.
If they have the exact same spelling, then they don't have to have the same parse tree?
Yes. That means, no. That's why I say this second point is only for you guys' information, all right? Let me write it down. Bear with me. Guys, don't worry, I'm not drunk. I know what I'm talking about. I could be, but I'm not. I could be. All right? Number 2. I like it. You guys are really paying attention to what I'm saying, which is good, okay? Let me write it down. If I got F1 has the same spelling, basically the same string. But F1 and F2 have different, same parse tree. Beg your pardon, different parse tree. Maybe I'm drunk, have different parse tree. This means, all right, there's something I'm going to write down. And second point, again, it's not going to be on any of your assessment. It's only for your information. Okay, that means the grammar for which we try to base the parse tree on is so-called ambiguous. Maybe you guys heard about ambiguity of a context-free grammar. So that's why I said this is only for your knowledge.
That's a trick question.
Don't worry, I will never test you on this in any way. It's only for your information, okay? I thought about whether I should really talk about ambiguity today, but I think that'll be too much. That'll be too much for you guys. Okay, let me finish this and then I'll take a question. The grammar is ambiguous. So what does that mean? If you have the same string, let's say, if somehow you have a grammar for the same string, it can have maybe 2 different parse trees. That means if you want to implement some algorithm to process the same string, you can either do it this way or this way. It's not good. It's not deterministic. That's very bad. Ambiguity. And this is a very practical concern about implementing a compiler. If you want to implement a compiler, you want to make sure that the grammar you use is 100% unambiguous. All right, guys, this is only optional. If you don't really grasp this point, don't panic. Don't worry about it. Yes, for our grammar here, but I can tell you that I don't want to further confuse you guys. With the grammar here and with the assumption we have, the grammar is absolutely fine, okay? So for this course, any grammar we may have to look at, this will be the main one, is unambiguous. You don't need to worry about it. Gerard. Very good question. This is the, if only inspecting by your eyes, you will have to think about all the possible, well, when I say all, of course, they're finite. You got to be very clever to think about, is there any string I can come up with that can have 2 distinct parse trees? That's how you disprove. Think about ambiguity is like this. ambiguity, if a grammar is ambiguous, that means I can find at least one string that can be interpreted by two ways, like a two-parse tree. How do you actually prove that? You're going to find that.
So until we decide the order of associativity, our grammar is ambiguous?
We're going to determine that, don't worry. We'll determine that.
Until you give us an answer.
Yeah, I'll definitely give you an answer. That's something you can expect. Eventually, it's going to happen. Like a diamond, you know, like eventually. Yes. Question, quickly.
So like the multiple implies, that would be
Hmm?
yeah, I was just going to ask for you, as the multiple implies, that would be an ambiguous grammar, right?
Yeah, of course, I'm going to give you guys about the associativity. So think about the assumption here is about we're going to take into consideration precedence and associativity, right? Oh, my God, only 9 minutes left, okay? Guys, how about this? Do you guys mind we don't have a break today? Just take attendance, and then we'll finish that, okay? Yeah, it's rare. But I should really give you guys credits by coming to the class. Why don't we do that first, and then I'll talk a little bit more, and then we're done for tonight. Okay, let's now take attendance, and then we'll just continue for maybe about 5 minutes or so, and then you guys will be okay. Okay, 4315. The poll. All right, check in, please. All right. Oh, got issue? No worries. Just wait.
Yeah, I don't know why it stops.
Yeah, weird, right? Okay. Yeah, guys, any issue you might have? If no, can I close it? If you got, not yet, right? Okay, please. All right. I can close. Wow, how selfish. Okay, I'll close it, and okay. So Sana, how about see me after class? I'll bring the sheet.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, guys, if you don't mind, let me continue for about 5 minutes, and I'll let you go a little bit earlier, okay? That's about the parse tree. For now, that's one way to actually show that the membership can be, let's say you got given a string, you can say it's in the language, okay? The next one is so-called derivation, okay? What I want to do is to give you the principle and do part of it so you guys get an idea and try to do the exercise, and we'll go over it again next time, okay? All right, let me switch to iPad and talk about it. All right, bear with me. We're just going to do one more. All right. And also, let's read the principle very quickly. We're going to do something called leftmost derivation. So the principle is as follows. Every time you got any non-terminal, let's say multiple non-terminals in your half-completed formula, always choose the leftmost one. Always. If in any single step along the way, you chose the non-leftmost. It's not leftmost derivation anymore. Let's see how exactly that can be done. Okay? And for this example here, let's do just enough so you get an idea so you can try to continue. You can continue after class. Again, let's box in this way. That's something we spoke about. This one over here. And we know that overall is going to be a implication. Okay, let's try. Let's start with the phi. Again, we start with the star variable, always. This can be derived. And I know this could cause some confusion. This over here is called can be derived to. Looks like implication, I agree. Think about this operator being overloaded. Derived to. Ambiguity in some way, yes. No, actually in this way, let's not worry too much about it. Yeah, good. All right, so how about it? Okay, so now, for this line here, there's only one non-terminal. What will be the leftmost one? Itself. Agree? There's only one non-terminal. Choose the leftmost to derive further. That's the only one, okay? So this is the leftmost. non-terminal. So this one here can be derived into by using this rule. So it can be derived into phi implies phi. And of course, this guy here is implication.
How is that a terminal? I thought terminals were only the base case.
No, non-terminal. You always find the non-terminal here. Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So I'm just saying, yeah, we're going to do that. For this line here, the leftmost non-terminal is just a phi. It's obvious. What about here? The phi here, right? Antecedents. All right? So this guy here will be the leftmost non-terminal. So this one here is the leftmost non-terminal. Right? So this whole thing here can be derived to, again, that's derived symbol, always on that side, right? That's just a derived symbol, okay? And we're going to now try to replace this thing here by whatever that's necessary. So we know that eventually it should be some conjunction, right? Let me do a little bit more so you guys will get an idea. So that will be some phi and phi implies phi. Oh, this sounds some real life, like a eureka moment, right? I heard, anyway. So here, this will be conjunction here, right? So guys, what about the next step? What should we do? Which one should we derive?
First.
This one here, right? Leftmost. Think about you're scanning from left to right, the first one to encounter. And now used to be, let me say this. Used to be deriving this and deriving this, and then now we're going to derive this, okay? Now, what should this be? This one here should be to the left of the conjunction. Should be FP, right? F5, exactly. That ultimately should be FP. And then phi implies phi. And we're going to now look at this phi here. What should that be? Should be FP, okay? FP, and then phi implies phi. You can see now we are done with this part here. Now, what will be the next one? This one here. Try to see if you can continue with this, okay? Until you have a string with no phi, with no non-terminal, and you're done. So this is so-called the leftmost derivation.
I understand the ParseTrees, but
Yeah, so this one here is like a textual form of showing rather than, okay, very good question. So this one here also shows to you how you can actually evaluate, but in a textual form rather than tree.
So is this like used in case you need to do like short-circuiting logic? Or?
Not really. I'm just saying it's an alternative way of presenting how the string can be analyzed. But I think this one, let me make a little bit more remark maybe next time. But for now, let's just see how you can do it.
Like order of operations?
Yeah, you can also derive the order of evaluation from the tree as well, and here too.
Like
Right. Yes. Guys, how about this? I'm gonna let you guys to really finish just this one here. Okay, so to be continued. All right. Guys, any question? All right, I should let you guys go. All right, and on Thursday, we're going to continue with this, and then we're going to hopefully move on to semantics.